Hello, I am Ioana and I am the Age UK Redbridge watercolor tutor, and I'm very excited to share with you today how to paint a hydrangea. To be honest, I do think that I have a favorite flower and that would be a hydrangea, so I am definitely going to have quite a lot of fun painting this. I do hope you join in and give this a try. Enjoy this watercolor tutorial and do check out the links in the description to hear more about Age UK Redbridge as well as the Diamonds group. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy this. For today's painting, you're going to need a little bit of fresh water. Some paints, they can come in a box or in tubes, that's absolutely fine. Brushes, I have different sizes here, but that's not absolutely essential. You can only have one medium brush and that's going to be absolutely fine. And I'd also always recommend some tissue. That's going to help us lift off any mark that we don't want on our painting. Okay, so let's get started. What I would do first is I would choose where I would like my flowers to be. And I think I'm going to paint two of them. And I'll have one here and the one next to it. So I'm going to get a little bit of water, get in some blue, not too much, water it down, and then create one large circle, which I'm going to fill in. As you can see, this is very, very faint, so not a lot of paint on my brush. We're only finding the general shape and position of our flower, so nothing too precise here. Oh yes, another thing that I always recommend is having some watercolor paper. The advantage of having watercolor paper is that the pigment is going to be absorbed faster. Beautiful. And I think I'm going to have one flower that's going to be blue, another one that's going to have a little bit of violet in it. So I'm going to get a little bit of violet and I'm going to create my next flower, which I'm going to place to the right of my first one and slightly lower down. And I'm repeating the same process where I'm only filling in the big circle with watered down purple, keeping my painting nice and watered down. I'm also going to add a little bit of green, water it down as well, and add the stem. And then I'm going to add some leaves as well. Again, I'm only at a stage where I'm creating the overall composition, so I'm not too bothered. The leaves I'm only suggesting. I'm using curved lines and then using very watered down green. I am filling those in, like so. And I'm looking at my composition, and if I find that it is quite empty and I find that there are big areas that would need some elements in them, I'm going to add another leaf maybe. If, however, my painting seems quite balanced, I'll skip that. Keeping this first layer very watered down so that it gives us the possibility later to add more or lift something up if elements end up not really working for us. Beautiful. Amazing. And at this point I might use my tissue and make sure that my brush is nice and clean. And what I can do next is check with my pinky if this area has dried. One thing that you can do first is look in the light, and if the area still looks very shiny, most probably it has a lot of water. If it's looking quite matte, that's when you can check with your finger. Just press it on the paper. If on the finger there's nothing, no color lifted up, then the area is dry. And now it's the fun part, I'd say. This is the part where we're going to paint multiple little teeny tiny flowers. This is going to be quite a relaxing part of this painting, this tutorial. I'm getting a little bit of color, I'm getting a little bit of water on the tip of my brush, getting some blue, making sure it's not too much. And then I'm going to our flowers, starting with a round, so starting with a circle and then adding a bit of a dip to this, and this is going to be the first petal. Next to it, another one, and then next to that one, yet another one. So it looks a bit like drops or maybe teardrops. And we're trying not to use too much pigment and create these flowers as close in to each other as possible. Using the tip of my brush, this is offering me the most control over the painting. And I'm just moving around, trying to fill in every gap. But the good thing about the fact that we already laid the first foundation, the first layer, is that even if there are areas that are left unpainted, they still have a little bit of pigment there. And what we're going to do now is just move around the edges of our circle, creating little flowers. And sometimes your flowers may have 3 petals, sometimes only 2, sometimes 5. And I would really say that at this stage, do take your time, enjoy this process, enjoy painting these flowers. Don't rush it. Also, if you have discovered that you used too much pigment somewhere and you're afraid that's going to not look well at the end, you can just use your tissue, bring the tissue on top of the area, press it hard, hold it for a couple of seconds, and then you'll lift it off and the whole pigment is going to be lifted off. There's a lot of flexibility with this technique. It's all about creating small little flowers. Another thing that I would highly encourage you, just because watercolor is such an amazing medium, is not to be afraid to overlay your flowers, because what would happen once the painting is dry, you'll be able to see translucent layers of paint, so your petals would just look lovely one on top of each other. Just make sure you're not using too much water on your brush when you're doing this technique, otherwise you may take away from what you're trying to achieve, which is giving the sensation that these leaves, these petals are translucent, which in fact they really are. Wonderful. And then allowing this to dry for a moment, and as this one dries, we're going to do exactly the same over the other side, but this time we're going to add a little bit of red or even a little bit of purple in our flowers so that they're not all identical. And we are going to again fill up every space with these lovely little petals. I think that another thing that you can do, to be honest, and that would look amazing as well, would be to use very bold colors. As you can see, I'm using quite watered down watercolors here, but maybe using strong reds or browns can work amazing. You can suggest some hydrangeas that are drying, which are beautiful, so you can give that a try. That could be something quite amazing as well. Enjoy where we are at the moment. This may very well be your painting. If you want to go a little bit further, you can go on and create another layer. So allow the flowers to dry. Wash your brush if you have a tissue, and I highly encourage you to have a tissue ready. Make sure that you really clean the brush up Get a little bit of water, move back to your green, and let's play a bit with this area down here. So reinforcing the stem, and we're going to add a little bit of detail to our leaves. So maybe adding the vein, maybe adding another leaf if you find that would look better. The more suggestive a painting is, the more natural it's going to look. If you are going to get yourself lost in adding so many details, it can look almost a bit overworked. Now we're going to clean the brush once more, and then we're going to play a little bit more with our flowers. I would suggest getting your blue, mixing it with a little bit, the tiniest little bit of purple, watering it down, and then maybe adding a few more flowers that are going to break that monotony of only using one color. In the grand scheme of things, they're not going to look that different to the rest of the flowers, but they are going to make for a bit more interesting of a composition and a bit more of a coherent one, linking the two of them together. Also, don't be afraid to sometimes overlayer your flowers. The hydrangeas are quite translucent, and we're going to do the same over the other side. I've added a little bit of red just to break that monotony, and I'm going to make sure I'm not holding too much paint, and then I'm going to create a few more flowers. Also not being afraid to use a bit more pigment now. These would be the flowers that are most visible, so they would be a bit more bold, they would be more easy to see, they would be the ones that are closest to the eye. Fill in any white caps if you want with some paint. If you find that you'd like to reinforce some flowers, you can absolutely do that. Wonderful. Now if you want, you can add a little bit more blue to your green, and then maybe add a few more details here. And there you have it, the finished watercolor painting. So here we are at the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed painting alongside with me. Let me know how you find it, let me know how you like your painting. And again, thank you very much for watching this. Do check out the links in the description as well as the ones that appear on the screen. They're giving you information about Age UK RBH as well as the D Diamonds group. And you can hear more about all the wonderful activities that are going on at the moment, and maybe even join some of them, maybe join in with the watercolor class. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this. Have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye!